What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today we got my updated Bracketology Power 35 rankings for week 2 with the college basketball season. It's been a really good start to the season so far, and we got a few changes for this week. I'm ready to get started. Just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We do a ton of college basketball content here on the channel, including these updated rankings every single Monday. So make sure you guys hit that sub button, and let's get started. Alright guys, as always, I'm giving to you guys all at once. And we had the same number 1 team this week in the Auburn Tigers. They only played one more game since that big win over Houston, where they did win by a lot. Still looking very good. I feel like they deserve to be the number 1 team in the country right now. Number 2, I got the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Gonzaga has looked really good so far. That Arizona State win is looking a lot better now that Arizona State went and beat Grand Canyon, and Arizona State actually looks like they're going to be pretty good this year. So that Arizona State win looks good, and they also got a big blowout win over Baylor this year. And all around as a team, Gonzaga looks really good. They're going to be a contender this year, guys, and I got them here at number 2. Number 3, I got the UConn Huskies. They haven't really played anybody all that great yet, but they've looked really good in their games so far. They've got blowout wins over 3 opponents and looked really good doing so. And yeah, that Dan Hurley offense, the way that they move the ball, it's like no one else in the country. UConn definitely deserves to be number 3 right now. Number 4, we do have the Kansas Jayhawks. They got 2 pretty good wins over Michigan State and North Carolina. The North Carolina one was in Allen Fieldhouse, and they barely escaped with a win in that one. They were letting North Carolina cut it really close, which does worry me a little bit. I feel like Kansas hasn't looked as good as expected because we expected them to be number 1, but I don't feel like they're the number 1 team in the country right now, the way that they are playing. I do think they are a top 10 team in the country, and I do think that they are the number 4 team in the country right now because they did win that game against North Carolina, and they did beat Michigan State. They just didn't look as good as we might have thought, with them expected to come into the season as like the favorite to win the national championship and all of these great players. But they do have tremendous depth. They have awesome star players on this team. Hunter Dickinson really took off against Michigan State. Looks to be really good. And yeah, there's no doubt I think that they can win the national championship. They just haven't looked to the caliber I expected them to so far this season, which was very high standards. I expected them to be number 1, but they are number 4. Number 5, I do have Iowa State. They're untested. Haven't played anybody that great yet. They will have some tests coming up, but right now they're still number 5 because they are undefeated, and I expect them to be very, very good this season. Number 6, I do have the Houston Cougars. Their only loss is to Auburn, so they are down here at number 6, but that's still pretty good. It was a close game against Auburn, but there are some question marks with this team, so I can't put them any higher than 6 up to this point in the season. We have to see when they get tested some more, but other games other than the Auburn game, they were winning blowout style against teams that they were supposed to. So still think they are going to be really good this season. Number 7, our highest jumper of this week is the Kentucky Wildcats. I did have them around like 22, 23, I feel like, last week. And I mentioned, I was like, they have a huge opportunity against Duke, where I actually predicted them to beat Duke, where they could jump up a ton of spots, and they proved me right. They looked really good against Duke, and Duke's defense is really good. They smother, they deny people the ball on the outside. They don't let you just pass it around. Like, I really do think Kentucky looked really good in that Duke game, especially on the offensive end, rebounding the ball. They look really good, and I got them all the way up here at number 7 after that big win against Duke on a neutral court. Looked pretty good. Number 8, we do have Purdue, and Purdue, one of the other biggest wins of the week. They got a big win against Alabama. It was a home game for them in Mackey Arena, but still very impressive win because Alabama is expected to be one of the better teams in the country this year, and they are one of the better teams in the country this year. So for Purdue to get that win, really made a statement saying, okay, even though we lost Zach Edey, even though our 7'4" freshman is hurt and out for the season, we can still have guys, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren, come in here and get some buckets for us and get a big-time win. So that was huge for Purdue. They definitely deserve a spot in the top 10 this week, and they're here at number 8. Number 9, I do have North Carolina. Their only loss is to my number 4 team, Kansas, on the road, but they've looked really good. They got 4 solid guards on this team. The big question mark is their front court, but they have athletes down there on the front court. So most of the time they are going to be able to hang around with their opponents. But if they play an opponent with a good front court, offensively it could be a little bit hard, especially if they play against a good defensive front court. They might not get much production out of them. So that is the big question mark. But the way that this team runs and can score and can shoot with these 4 guards, they're going to be very hard to stop, and they're coming in here at number 9. Number 10, I do have Alabama after that loss to Purdue. They dropped down a little bit, but I still have them in my top 10 at number 10. I still think they are a really good team. Just because you get an early loss on the road and in one of the toughest environments in college basketball doesn't mean you need to drop too far, and that's similar to North Carolina. North Carolina lost in Allen Fieldhouse. Alabama lost to in Mackey Arena. They both have some really good guards. They both have really good teams, and they're still in the top 10 here at number 9 and 10. Number 11, we do have the Duke Blue Devils. They lost to Kentucky on the neutral court in Atlanta. It was a very competitive game. It was down to the wire. Duke was actually leading most of that game until the end. Cooper Flagg looked pretty good, although he did choke at the end of that game with back-to-back turnovers in crucial spots. A turnover whenever it was a tie game, and a turnover when they were down 2, both under a minute. So not great there by Cooper Flagg. So hopefully he'll learn from that and can get better, because over the course of the whole game, he actually played pretty good, and his performance kind of based on the ending there where he choked. If he would have hit a game winner, people would have said he played amazingly, but since he turned the ball over, he played bad, right? But he played good, other than choking it there at the end. Overall, Duke's defense is really what impressed me in that game. I felt like, especially throughout the first half of that Kentucky game, they had really good defense, and then they went and played Wofford, I believe it was, in their next game, and held them to under 40 points, and it might have been like 32. Like, it was pretty low. I think Duke's pretty good defensively this year, and that just goes to show you how impressed I was with Kentucky able to score the ball. Number 12, we do have Marquette. Marquette got a big win, true road game against Maryland. Looked really good. Cam Jones is one of the best scorers in college basketball. Marquette deserves to be up here. They're at number 12. Number 13, we do have Tennessee. They got a couple of good wins on the season so far. One against Louisville in a blowout fashion, and against Austin Peay. And Austin Peay was undefeated before they played Tennessee, and Tennessee blew them out. So I feel like those are pretty good wins, decent wins. Nothing crazy, but two pretty good wins there for Tennessee, and they're up at number 13. Number 14, we do have St. John's, and St. John's looked really good against New Mexico yesterday, guys, defensively especially. But what really impressed me was these 3 guards who can both score for themselves and play make for their teammates. Davion Smith, you got Kadari Richmond, and R.J. Lewis. Those 3 guards for St. John's can all play make. They could all get 10-plus assists on any given night. They're that level of playmaker, and that really impressed me for St. John's, and they're jumping all the way into the top 15 at number 14. Number 15, we do have Indiana, and Indiana is untested, but they look really good. I still believe they are one of the better teams in the Big Ten Conference. And yeah, they'll have some tests coming up here soon, but right now they're undefeated, look really good. And they're another team that I really do like defensively. They got a lot of length on this team. Number 16, we got Baylor, and Baylor, they do fall a little bit more again for me, even though they've been winning ever since that loss to Gonzaga, where they looked really not that great. I still worry about Baylor's defense, but offensively, I think they're only going to get better and better with these 2 freshmen, and especially when VJ Edgecombe really starts to hit his shots, I feel like Baylor offensively is going to be tough to beat. But defensively, I feel like they're still not that great. I feel like they're going to be hovering around the 10 to 20 range about all season long. And I got them here at number 16. Number 17, we do have Xavier. They got a big win in the Cintas Center against Wake Forest. Wake Forest is actually a really good team. As you can see, I got them over there at number 34, but they were in my top 30. I think they were in my top 25 last week. So I was really impressed with Xavier. Very good environment there, and I think they have amazing guards. Zach Freemantle in the front court. Yep, Xavier's going to be pretty good this year in the Big East. Don't sleep on the Musketeers. Next up, we got 18, Central Florida. They're up a couple of spots for me. I think they were 20 last week. Got another win this week against Florida Atlantic, where they put up 100 points. They got a really good backcourt, underrated backcourt, similar to Xavier. And them in the Big 12 is going to be interesting. I feel like they're going to be a sleeper in the Big 12 conference, but look out for Central Florida. They got a win over Texas A&M already this year. And they just put up 100 on Florida Atlantic. It was a close game. They did win like 100-93, but that was a good performance for Central Florida. They're still undefeated. They got a good win over Texas A&M as well. Arkansas at number 19. Arkansas just haven't had any impressive wins so far, but I think they're a really good team. They kept it competitive there with Baylor. Their big question mark is, are they going to be able to shoot the three ball? They weren't shooting well against Baylor. That was the one game I was able to catch for Arkansas so far this year. But they have a lot of really good players. I expect them to be a competitor in the SEC this year for sure. They're here at number 19. Number 20, we got Cincinnati, one of these untested Big 12 teams that are undefeated so far. We got a couple more of those coming up later. In number 31 and number 32 is BYU and Texas Tech. But they've all looked really good so far, and I'm excited for these teams to get tested. Number 21, we got Wisconsin, one of the bigger wins of the week. We do have Wisconsin winning at home over Arizona, and they're named John Tunji, who dropped 41 points on Arizona. Very impressive performance there by him and this Wisconsin team. They were able to shut down Caleb Love and really make him a non-factor in that game, and they put up 100 points. Really solid performance, and Wisconsin definitely deserves to be ranked right now here at number 21. They got to be in the top 25 after that performance where they beat Arizona. Number 22, we do have Florida. Florida did get a good win over Florida State this week. Still undefeated, looking really good. They're here at number 22. Number 23, we do have Creighton. Similar, another Big East team here. Untested so far, but look really good. Ryan Cockburner seems like he is taking his offensive game to the next level. We'll see if they can keep it up, if he and this Creighton team can keep it up when they do play some more true tests. I think they got Nebraska coming up here soon in a rivalry game. Number 24, we do have Arizona. Just talked about how they lost to Wisconsin. I still have them here in my top 25 at number 24. It's tough to play on the road, guys, and that was a true road game at Wisconsin. And they were still able to put up 88 points with Caleb Love, putting up a stinker. I was kind of impressed with a lot of the other players on this Arizona team, so we'll see if they are a close one against Portland, but were able to pull away and get that win. And then I think that they played Troy yesterday and was able to get a win. They haven't really played anybody all that great, but I feel like Oregon's going to be a sleeper this year in the Big Ten, so look out for the Ducks. 27, we got Texas A&M. They got a huge bounce-back win over Ohio State. It was a home game for them. They were expected to win. They got it done. They needed that one. After that loss early in the season in the first game for them against Central Florida, that was a big win for them to get one over Ohio State, who I was pretty high on. And right behind them here at 28, I do have Ohio State. I still think they're pretty good. I think I was just a little bit too high on them after last week. I put them at number 10 after that big win against Texas, and the way that they were playing, they were looking really good. Even though they just weren't able to get it done on the road against a good Buzz Williams coach Texas A&M team, I still think they're really good. I just think that I was too high on them. I think Texas A&M, Ohio State, and then the team that Ohio State beat, Texas, which I have here at 29 right behind them, I think they're all going to be hovering around this range, around 20 to 30. And this feels right for these teams with how I've watched these teams play versus how I've watched all the teams above them play. This range right here feels right for Texas A&M, Ohio State, Texas. And yeah, Texas, pretty good as well. Just a tough loss there to Ohio State, where Ohio State looked better. We'll see if they're able to bounce back, but they're here at number 29. Number 30, I do have Pitt, and Pitt blew the wheels off of West Virginia this past Friday. Looked really good, and they have a lot of scorers on this team that I was very impressed with. They got the Diaz Graham twins. Really only Guillermo is the main player there for Pitt. And yeah, Pitt looks really good. I think they're going to be a sleeper in the ACC. It is also very possible that West Virginia is just really bad, but I was pretty impressed. I got Pitt in the top 35 here at number 30 this week. Number 31, I do have BYU, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about BYU and Texas Tech here at 31 and 32 because they're two Big 12 teams that are undefeated up to this point, but just haven't really played anybody to test them. But they both look really, really good, and they deserve to be in the top 35 right now. We'll see if they can keep it up. Number 33, I got VCU, Virginia Commonwealth. They look really good so far. They look like maybe the best team in the A10, and that's actually saying a lot considering how many good teams there are in the A10. I want to give a shout out to Dayton, Loyola Chicago, also LaSalle, St. Bonaventure, St. Joseph's, even UMass was expected to be pretty decent this year. They've underperformed. There's a lot of really good teams in this league, and VCU looks like maybe the best, so they definitely deserve to be here, and it wouldn't surprise me if the A10 gets 2 or maybe 3 bids into the tournament this year because it looks to be pretty stacked. Number 34, I do have Wake Forest. Kind of talked about them earlier. They did lose on the road to Xavier. That's a tough environment. I still feel like Wake Forest is a top 35 team. I feel like they are going to be a contender in the ACC this year. I mean, other than Duke, North Carolina, for me, it's really probably Wake Forest and Pitt. That's really where the ACC is right now. I think Clemson can be a factor as well. But Clemson did lose this week to Boise State on the road, which Boise State is a really good team. I still think Clemson can be a contender in the ACC, but for now they're not ranked anymore. Wake Forest at 34. I'm not going to hold a tough environment road loss against them too hard. I still think they're a really good team. 35, we do have Memphis. Memphis, I feel like is going to be one of the better mid-majors this season. PJ Haggerty is going to be one of the better players in the mid-majors this year, and so far he has been, and Memphis has looked really good. So they're here at number 35. They got UConn, I believe, next week. That's going to be a big test for Memphis, and I'm very excited to watch that game next week. So 35 for the Tigers. And teams to watch that are just on the cusp of making the Daniology Power 35. I really wanted to put really all of these teams in, but just was unable to find a spot for them. St. Mary's is probably my team number 36. They got a good win over Nebraska this week. Looked really good. They got a freshman. I can't remember his name right now, but he really impressed me when I was watching that game. He dropped over 20 points. That's going to be huge if he can keep up that production for the Gales. Mississippi State, I'm a huge fan of Josh Hubbard. You guys know I've been saying it all preseason long, all off season, and in the beginning of this season, he's proved me right. In his sophomore year, Josh Hubbard has been one of the most underrated players in college basketball, and a player that I believe is going to be must-watch TV here very soon. And as we get into conference play in the SEC, I feel like Mississippi State is going to be very fun to watch with Josh Hubbard this year. They're on my teams to watch. I really wanted to put him in, but was unable to find a spot for him. Georgia basketball on the teams to watch. They're undefeated so far. They killed the giant killer in North Florida, and they beat Georgia Tech as well. Looking pretty decent. Was unable to find a spot for him so far, but I do got my eye out on Georgia. I'm looking out for you guys. So Georgia fans, you can definitely make it next week. I got my eye on you. San Francisco was in my teams to watch last week. They got a good win already this year over Boise State. They're going to be a sleeper in the West Coast Conference. It's not just St. Mary's and Gonzaga this year. Look out for San Fran's. Santa Clara could also throw a wrench into things there in the West Coast Conference, but San Francisco, the Dons look pretty good so far. Ole Miss undefeated, just haven't played anybody. I am keeping my eye out on them. LSU, impressive true road game at Kansas State, in Cambridge Stadium. Kansas State looked awful, guys. Kansas State was on my teams to watch last week, and yeah, they're not even on the radar anymore after that loss to LSU, and they looked really bad. LSU did look pretty good, though. They're on my teams to watch. Look out for LSU. New Mexico drops out of my rankings after the loss to St. John's, but I still got my eye out on them. I wanted to still put them in the 31 to 35 range, but I felt like there are other teams that just deserved it more, but they were competitive against St. John's. I feel like New Mexico is going to be back in these rankings, maybe by next week or 2 weeks. Here very soon, they'll be back. I got my eye out on them. And finally, Rutgers. Rutgers is a team that I really wanted to put in. Ace Bailey did make his debut this week. They're looking really good. Dylan Harper has been one of the best freshmen in the country. He has not underperformed whatsoever. And yeah, I got my eye out on Rutgers as well. So let me know what you guys think about the Daniology Power 35 rankings for week 2. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Who got snubbed? And yeah, guys, let me know all that down below in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new, because we're dropping these rankings every single Monday, and also a ton of other college basketball content here on the channel as well. So make sure you guys subscribe, hit that like button if you guys enjoy, and thank you so much for watching.